Hey everyone, so this video is for people who are deciding on whether to buy the Logitech G640 or the Artisan Zero Classic Mid Mousepad. Off the bat, I want to say you can't really go wrong with either of these. I've used them for about 2 to 3 months each, and my performance has been very similar on both. As you can see, the G640 is very popular amongst pro Valorant players, so I thought I'd give it a try after using the Artisan pads for a long while. First, I'll go over the physical differences. They are both quite firm for control pads. When you press into them, they barely sink in. The G640 has a softer, smoother texture on the surface than the Artisan pad, which is quite rough. The G640 has a textured rubber base, while the Artisan has a thin, smooth base. The G640 is 46 by 40 centimeters, while the Mid Artisan is 49 by 42 centimeters, and they both have a 3mm depth. The G640 has a Logitech logo that sticks out of the surface and has a different texture to the mousepad, which means that you can't run your mouse over it because it slows down. So if you like to rotate your mousepad so you don't have to clean it often, then you might run into some issues. The Artisan pad has a logo printed into the fabric of the mousepad, so there's no difference in texture there. And finally, both mousepads don't have any stitched edges unless you get the FX version of the Artisan Zero. So before I do the glide test, I want to say I've given the G640 a deep clean with water, which restored maybe 10 to 15% of the initial glide, and I've not given the Artisan pad a proper clean yet because I haven't felt the need to. To make it easy for you guys, I'll list all the things that I believe each mousepad does better than the other. Firstly, the G640 has a really solid grip and does not move around at all. As you can see, the Artisan Zero has a much more slippery base, but you won't notice it move while you play, and you just have to adjust it every now and then. The G640 feels a bit more comfortable on your wrist and forearm because of its smoother surface. I've noticed it has slightly better stopping power than the Artisan when it comes to wide flicks, but it's very hard to notice. I also feel like I have a bit more control of the G640, especially when tracking targets, because it is slightly slower than the Artisan. The Artisan Zero is prone to catching dust and hair on the surface, so I use a lint roller on it every few days, which can be a bit annoying. I've had no issues with that on the G640. Both mousepads are super easy to clean and quick to dry. Just wipe it down with a wet microfiber cloth, or for a deeper clean, run it under water with soap. The Artisan Mid is slightly faster than the G640. Out the box, the G640 had identical glide to the Artisan. However, after a month of use, I noticed it started to quickly decline in speed, and after about 2.5 months, it lost around 30 to 40% of its glide, whereas the Artisan lost around 20% in the same amount of time. Because it's able to maintain its glide, it offers less resistance, especially when you try to micro flick or micro adjust your crosshair, which makes the Artisan pad feel more accurate for smaller flicks. Because of this, I'd have to say the Artisan Mid offers more consistent aim compared to the G640. It just takes a bit of time to get used to the speed. However, they are both extremely consistent pads because the mouse will never sink into the pad regardless of how much pressure you put on it. The Artisan pad definitely wins in terms of durability. I've already noticed the G640 starting to wear out around the edges, and the surface feels rougher than what it was out the box. And the Artisan pad feels identical from when I first got it many months ago. In terms of performance, I didn't notice too much difference between the two. My aim labs and Valorant performance has been pretty similar on both. One thing to note is that when the G640 started to slow down and become slightly muddy, I noticed my aim starting to take a hit, but I think that slowness can also add to the control of the pad, and it just takes time to get used to. The Artisan Zero is more expensive than the Logitech, costing around 8,400 yen, depending on the shipping costs, which is around $60 USD and $90 Australian at the time of making this video. The price of the Logitech G640 is $50 USD and around the same in AUD. So if you're on a tight budget, I recommend the G640. Also, side note, if you're thinking about getting the extra soft or soft version of the Artisan Zero, I'd highly recommend you stick to either the G640 or the Mid. I've made another video explaining why, so you can check that out if you're interested. Links in the description. So yeah, comment below if you've used either of these mousepads, and if you want to add anything to help other people out, or if you have any questions, let me know.